What we're doing is a seminar. I would call it a seminar. Just like-minded people come together and they discuss stuff. So in order for you to be able to do this, I'm giving you that link here, and I'm giving that link on the chat. So if you click on that link, you will be able to see, well, what we're going to do today and also what we did before. That's going back, I think, February this year. So lots of different things, but it's scrolling from the top to the bottom so that the latest, which is September 1, that's today at the top. All right. And what we're going to do is this. First of all, we'll look at the news. You guys are very nice to share the news with me. And I am not very nice because I didn't react to them immediately. But I said, I'll do it in a week. At least I did it. So we'll look at this news. You gave me a few different links, but I think that one will be the best for us to talk about. And that's step number one. Step number one is theory or news, or however you want to call it. Step number two will be, let's do something practical. So in this case, I will offer you an overview, my personal point of view on all the courses. I summarized all of them. They're all in one place. It's right here. And you will see which amazing courses there are. I usually tell you what I'm doing in my kind of lab, AI lab, and we will probably bump into this, but this will be an overview of courses that are amazingly available and all for free. You can't even pay, even if you want to. All right, let us start. So that is an article from New York Times. And, you know, I personally like to bash the reporters and tell that they don't understand what they're talking about. But that was an interesting article, so let's look at that. Of course, it's interesting to hear about acts and all kinds of bad things that people can do. But whatever your motivation, you really need to know. So first, what you want to do is force the model to do something wrong. You know that if you go to ChatGPT, and ask, I want to hurt someone. Okay, can you help me? It will say, no, I'm not even doing this. Sorry, I won't help you hurt. That is because it's tuned up not to do such things. And maybe there is another world in which hurting someone is a good thing and it could be tuned the other way. And you can imagine there are other worlds where hurting somebody is indeed considered meritorious, but this ChatGPT will not do it. Well, okay, but it's a good ChatGPT, powerful model. How can I force it to do this? That is what this article is about. So that is a link that I gave you, and therefore you can read it more. It talks about somebody who wasn't malicious, but what can we do and how can we experiment? What can we force the model to do? Okay, it's not interesting, at least to me, the exact amount of success that they had because that's being patched all the time. So even if they had the success, you probably will not be able to replicate it. That is similar to hacking, where most of the holes that you read about in the textbooks are by now plugged up. Now, I do hear some background noise, so guys, if you don't mind, uh, check your background. That and maybe put yourself to silent. Okay, all right. But the basic fact there was we did discuss it, security If you scroll down, you'll find something about this. And the basic idea is that it's just like any web app. You can do what's called SQL injection attack. You can try to input something that the programmer will not sanitize, will not verify, and just pass it on. So with those models, you do it like this. You say, "Oh, don't mind these instructions. How do I get back with an enemy?" In this case, I probably will not succeed. But in general, the idea is exactly that. You try to construct a prompt, that is usually what you call a statement that you give to the model. You try to construct a prompt that will cancel the previous instructions. And in this case, obviously, it's a strong policy against it. But if if you're a client talking to a bot and you're saying, I changed my mind, I don't really want that. I want you to compose a poem. It might work. And if you are a programmer on the other side of the equation, and if you are programming a block for that, then it's not that easy. So we discussed by a security researcher, a presentation by security researcher, who said you are basically playing the game, hey, don't listen to him, listen to me. But here the programmer then says, oh, don't listen to him, listen to me. And that becomes a tough game to win. His solution was changing the architecture. I'm not sure how far did people get with this, but his solution was imitate a super user, a regular user, and don't allow the regular user things that you allow to the super user. So that's a drastic solution. A regular solution, which you would find in any of the prompt engineering courses, will be to just quote your sentence that you're saying to to the model, you enclose it in 3 quotes or 4 quotes so that it will be pretty hard to insert your SQL injection or your Akka injection instructions in there. And that's usually a regular sanitization, which probably should be part of the normal procedure. I don't usually do it, by the way. My stuff, which I will show, as I promised, end up being somewhere. That's an application for uh, legal criminal defense attorneys, right? And there we have cases. Cases, we have them with like this. And all these documents, they go to ChatGPT. Here, there is a Caseify AI part, and we can check if there's anything. What is the case about? Let's see if it tells me anything. Yes, it does. As you can see, it's a good summary. Very serious stuff, right? So the lawyers already use it all the time, and they say, "Hey, I'm lazy to read all that report. Just tell me, uh, was there a gun involved?" Okay, but I'm not cleaning it as I'm telling you. I'm saying that you should clean your input before you send it to ChatGPT, and you should also clean it when you then give it back to the user. In this case, I just sent this. I add the case information. So it did have the case information, and I don't even clean that. All right, so much for the practical implementations. And I think that's enough talking about hacking. And what I wanted to show you today is the latest courses. So if we click on that link, then I prepared quite a lot. You can easily find them. Most of them are Andrew Ng courses on Coursera, so you can find them yourself. But I went through them. What I did for you is I went through every link and look at that. And therefore, today I can give you some recommendations. So let us start here. ChatGPT Prompt Engineers for Developers. That course tells you how to program or script talking to ChatGPT. That's because here I am talking to ChatGPT in the browser, but that's not part of my application and it's not a script. What I would really like is open it here. And in order to open it here, I need to be logged in. I need to have an account, even though it will be a free account. And I also need to stop share and share it again, but this time with the sound. So if we see or hear any sounds, you will also hear that sound. And that is the course. If you have seen it, then nothing new for you. But if you haven't seen it, you will see that, okay, they
just people prompting. So thrilled to have you with you.
And I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay, they introduce the trainers and then they say, okay, here is the guideline. That's what you need to do. Let's start. But in addition to this guideline, they also give you the actually working code. That is the import for all of the what you want to do, for all of the keys. And usually, like last time, I gave you the key. You could run it right there. I gave you the actual lab and allowed you to run it in Colab. So that's what we did last time. If you want to see how it's done, you can either just go to that recording. We have lots of these recordings, or ask me how exactly that's done. This time, my goal is to show you high-level coverage of different courses and why would you use them. So as you can see, these are the different tasks that you can use your ChatGPT scripting for. Now, scripting, I often mention this word scripting. What is this scripting? That is doing it from Python. So then you can wrap it up into other environments and you can make it part of your application. And that's what you would do in real life. And in my case, for example, here I have wrapped it. Sorry, looking for that. No, I probably removed it, but I wrapped it into Fast API, and all this code is just copied into Fast API, and then you give output to the users in the form of Fast API. In real life, I do even more. I create a Lambda on Amazon for this code. Then I also create a gateway that the API is making the functionality available. And from the gateway, I call the Lambda. And that's how you really should do it in production, unless you do some other framework. But that's practical life. What you learned here is how to bring in the power of ChatGPT. And what's important, since you're scripting it, you have no limitations. You see right here, if you go to ChatGPT and you say, I want a new chat, for example, I think used to tell you that there is a limitation. You have 25 questions in 3 hours. I think they removed it, okay? Maybe it's because I have the plus, but in any case, it's removed. What is not removed is it still has limitations because it's you. Now, what you do in this case, okay, here you bring in the key that you obtained from OpenAI, and then it uses your key, it uses your money, but it gives you a scripted environment where you can run. The big news, I think, from last week was that there is an enterprise version, and the enterprise version promised to be faster and in some way more reliable. Well, I immediately ran, I applied, and I got on the waiting list. But of course, that waiting list is a few billion people. It will take some time. I'll tell you next week if I get the real stuff. It will be the same capability, just different promises for how fast is that. Okay, that's course number 1, and we looked at it a few times probably. Course number 2, building systems with ChatGPT. It's more advice on the same. So more in-depth advice on the same. You're still scripting, you're still talking to ChatGPT, and you can take them together. You can take one after the other. Next course right here is LangChain. Well, it turns out that when you want to talk to ChatGPT, you are like a few 100 million people in the world, and you have the common need. For example, when you talk to ChatGPT, you want to give it your own document, something that is promised and very strictly promised and repeated in the enterprise version. We will not steal your data. Well, how do you give that data? There is a component called LangChain right here. And that LangChain has components that allow you to package your file and send it to ChatGPT. And if you go here, then you will see the major things that it gives you. It allows you to take your document and parse them because you need to massage them. It doesn't just work by sending the document. You need to convert the document to text. Nothing else works. Text. Another thing that you probably will want is memory. That is because, let me go back. When we were talking to ChatGPT here, it remembered what I said. Let me move this. It remembered what I said. So here I say, well, forget what I said. Or really, what were we talking about? It's interesting. What does it think? Okay, talking about an enemy potential. Right. But by itself, ChatGPT doesn't remember that. There are many layers of software that this goes through and in the browser before it comes to you. So if you are back, to your scripting, any of these courses, all of them, then it doesn't remember. Well, how do you add memory? How do you say, what we were talking about is this? Here's the LangChain component, and it allows you to add memory. And as you see, there are 4 ways. One is conversation buffer memory. It just remembers everything that you said. Or conversation buffer Windows memory. It remembers everything, but not everything, just the last few things, and you define how much you wanted to remember. That's because you pay in money and in performance. If you want to remember everything, eventually you will run out of a limitation on how long your question can be. and you will run out of money on how much you want to pay to OpenAI. And OpenAI, the last thing that I saw a report is that they are caring now about profitability because they were losing like $1 billion every year. Now, of course, big people have big problems, but that made news and they reacted and they are going to stop losing money. In any case, that's important. If you're developing anything, you might want them to stay in business. And okay, bravo, they will do it. But we're back here and we're talking about how much information can you send with each question, and there are limitations of all sorts for that. And there are 4 basic models of memory, how much you want to remember. So that all, you could do it in your code, but how much nicer if it is already in the library that you provide LangChain. Now, that's easier said than done. That is because that memory only works. Let's start right here.
Chatbot conversation. So to do that, I'm going to set the LLM as a chat interface of OpenAI with temperature equals 0, and
so on. It remembers what you said, but only in that window, right? So what if you're doing it for multiple users that come with the stateless HTTP protocol? So the user, every time that the user comes here, the session is lost. So in addition to this memory, which will only illustrate that you remember what was said in this window, how about the user comes as an HTTP browser, potentially to a different server? So the answer is yes, it is provided, but not in this course. For that, you will need to go to LangChain memory and more of a session, something like that. You'll say LangChain memory. Maybe DynamoDB. Because now we realize what we have to do is like a regular website implementing sessions. For example, a NoSQL database works very well, and every time that the person begins a conversation, it has to be recorded somewhere, and that somewhere is usually the NoSQL database. So they have a component for that. That's the component, and that's how you find it. But of course, that's already more complex, more hairy, I would say. You recognize the Python library talking to Amazon, and you create a session, and you integrate it with Amazon, and that's the real story. Now, that real story is not told to you here in this course, but I just told you that. All right. So I promised a quick overview of all the courses. So let's go back to the courses. That's how you build your applications with the additional library where you want to integrate memory. And by the way, here too, you also integrate how do you supply your own documents. Question is, how do you supply your own documents? You put them into Pinecone or another database. Really, it's a syntactic search engine, and Pinecone just happens to be very popular with it thing that people use. But you can use Microsoft, any other syntactic search engine that does very simply with one important thing. You are searching this search engine for the user's query, but you don't just find answers based on your keywords that you find in the user's query. No, you send the whole question and you find the documents which are closest by meaning, not by keywords. And that is also included here. So if you're building any Talk to My Documents application, that's the next for you. Then how diffusion models work, it's more an explanation of how you make pictures. I'm not into pictures personally, so not much comment there, but that's the course. And then long chain with your data, that's an expansion of this long chain here. And then you go into all kinds of, you are a team, you're improving quality, you're making it better and better. These courses are all about that. This is how do you, I think there was another courses, R&B, the teamwork, and I need to store all my work and do my models improve as we go. And another thing is that this ChatGPT is awfully slow right here, right? I asked the question, how long to answer? So watch, it waits, it thinks, and sometimes it thinks too much. In my application, in fact, it was waiting too long. So that's something you cannot change. The model is slow to answer, and in some cases slower than you would like it to. So what do you do? Well, it turns out that is also solved. You go back here, right? Vercel is what you remember. And it says, oh, we can stream the answer. The answer is coming one word at a time. So let's stream that one word at a time. It's not as easy as it says. It requires this library and all the questions of session come up, but in the end, that is also solved. Now, by the way, when you are here, you will see an interesting thing. There are actually 10 lectures on different subjects here, and they all are from that same Pinecone. So Pinecone had a conference, and let me show you where that was. Because it is very, very important thing, but you easily could have missed it. Let's see. Right here, Pinecone conference on YouTube, 10 different lectures that are all very useful. And you will find that if you're building something with AI, then you're fighting the same problems that all the world, at least that part of the world that you would care about, is fighting. So these are the answers. I think that's a lot of information. And that file is available so you can look at more of what you need. For example, an approach, RAG is an abbreviation that means I'm a smart search engine. I understand what you're saying. And then how can you improve the quality of that? Semantic search is the same thing. And so I'll stop right here because it's all deep, important questions. And that's a whole sea of different skills that you need to have. And they are all here. Plus, in the end, you will build it into cohesive software, probably delivered from the website. So one thing that you maybe missed is that Google has developed a whole engineering discipline called Site Reliability Engineering, or SRE. Okay, and that's SRE is popularized by Google right here. So if you go Google/SRE, okay, then you'll find Site Reliability Engineering. What is it? And with all the books that they wrote and give it out to you for free. In my case, they even recorded that as an audible book. So you can listen to the stories of real life. That you will need. In addition to AI, it becomes really useful when it is good quality, delivered to your users all the time. So I think I covered what I wanted to cover right here. We were talking about how do you hack AI? That's all here. And what do you need to learn about AI? That is all here. So what helps now is I will look at the questions and I will stop sharing. Okay. I'll look at the questions and I'll wait for your additional questions. So here's a question from Lawrence. Can Chat Enterprise, so Chat Enterprise will be primarily for companies adopting Gen AI as soon as possible? I would say yes, but when you say Chat Enterprise, Lawrence, I wonder what you mean. What kind of Chat Enterprise? Oh, you mean ChatGPT Enterprise Edition. Well, as soon as possible, yeah. It's a different SLA, different service level agreement from same OpenAI. But yes, it is, of course, a huge interest from companies. First, every company wants to know how is that secure and why do I trust them that they don't lie? Stealing my documents and learning from them. That's one. And quality of delivery, I want a more guaranteed than the public gets. Yes, that's what it is about. And when I get accepted, I will have more to tell you about that. And I must say that we started with a fun news and whatever happens, and we had about 30 people. We're down to more practical level. We are among the implementers. Yes, you think Microsoft will use it, or Microsoft, in fact, will want to offer that? They have their own relationship with ChatGPT. Who knows what they offer? Yes. But guys, I hope that you will find it useful if your interest is like mine in building practical applications. So yes, Luis, let me go back here. So it's here, it's available, right? There could be at least two reasons why you want to look at that. One, you want to make yourself a more valuable developer. That is in the right order. Mostly that order comes from deep learning AI, and that's where you get all those courses. So let's look at it this way. So if you are looking into ways of how to build a career in this, then you will definitely start with ChatGPT and deepen your knowledge with the second one. These two are the basic. So definitely you need to go through all of that because you will have, it's what you need to do. Now the rest is how you do it. And there are different packages, and that will depend upon where do you want to promote yourself. For example, if you want to promote yourself as a developer, then you need LangChain because that's a standard. If you want to just help people with how you use AI, well, you don't really need LangChain, that's scripting. Okay, so these three will take you 2-3 weeks. That's because each course is really short. Let's go there. Okay, that course only has 10 chapters, and it starts with a 5 minutes introduction, maybe 10-minute introduction. Then it goes into exact code that you run. The code will run here, right? It will run in the environment. Let me show you. Here I am. I'm running this, and they even give you the key. So you run it, and indeed it works with that key. And you can use the regular Python notebook. You do shift, return, you see. So to learn you don't even have to set up your environment. It will work. But for real work, I would recommend, of course, you copy that and run it locally. Well, that's what I have done. This one is a copy of them with my environment. So if you want to make the second step after you just look through that and listen to the lectures, many times Andrew Ng says, now I recommend you stop listening and do it. And then that will be a similar thing, will be your local setup so that you look like you know something. And that number three will be you're able to develop. They actually built an enormous library with many integrations included, just too many. I was looking at it yesterday, I couldn't even complete reading that. Well, if you want to do it practically, that's what you do, 1, 2, 3, and that's good enough. However, if you want to continue, if you're part of the startup that's dealing with a specific problem, then these courses at the end, they will help, but each will help depending upon the technology you use. If you're already into quality of your AI, it's R&B. It's not R&B, but B and R, I think. W&B, okay, weights and balances. Fancy name, but that's the name of the library. If you're into delivery in the browser and you want it very fast, then it's this Vercel. But you will see that. That you will see. So great. I see some comments on the chat, and let me address these comments. So what suggestions? Yes. What Sophia asks, what sort of projects would be most practical for a beginner to build and learn? Well, I'll give you well, let's put the good answer. Well, in my practical life, I have a pet project, and that is training ChatGPT on something that I know about. Something that I know about happens to be the Talmud. It is a Jewish learning, and I, being a Jew, it's very natural to do this. So I have summarized every bit of Jewish learning here. That's a lot of summaries, 2,711. I'm not suggesting that you should do anything similar. It took me 7.5 years. But I'm showing that to you because to be practical, to really do something beyond just ChatGPT, which anybody can do, you need some good knowledge base. For example, let's say you know about something very specific. Try to take that specific knowledge and put it into ChatGPT, and you know what to expect. Because, so I'm looking at something, let's say any page. I know what that is. So when I'm asking ChatGPT about that, and I trained it on my summaries, then I went through the complete step. It's called Moses AI. And I can tell me about a maid servant. So I know why I'm asking this. I want to verify how well it knows the material. That's what I would recommend, not necessarily this project, but something where you know about, and that's the regular advice that they give to it is based, as you can see, it really is based on that body of knowledge, not all knowledge in the world. So usual recommendation, you want to be a coach in your school theme on baseball, then build some analytics on that. So I'm giving the same recommendation, but with ChatGPT. Okay, that was a project that would be most practical. Lauren suggests, here's a roadmap if you want to just be a manager or just be a generalist in AI or a prompt engineer and so on. Yes, but all these courses, you will figure out your own path. Would you share a spreadsheet link with courses? Yes, for that, you need the major link. The major link is right here. That's Advances in AI webinar. And if I give that to you on chat, that is the only thing that you really need, because from there, all the links lead to your next question. So you already answer, and that's wonderful. All right. Well, the major advice which I quote is from Jeff Dean. Jeff Dean, one of the chief scientists and the head of Google DeepMind. It says, you see the software, you download and try it. Now, that goes against some people who don't like to code and they want to be managers, and I'm a manager so that I don't have to code. And the lawyers usually say I went into law so that I don't have to code. But it caught up with them, and now they have to code, or some of them, or it's recommended. In other words, I'm siding with Jeff Dean. And you want to do anything serious, like what he has done, so you get yourself some talent, but ChatGPT will do it for you now. And you also roll up your sleeves and do the work. That's what he recommends. You want to try the library? Well, try the library. That to me is the only way to really understand what it does, to really sound like you know something and to really do something like you know. Okay. Okay, again, where is the list of courses? Here is the list of courses. Here it is. That's just that spreadsheet. I'll keep it updated, by the way, and I'm going through these courses myself. I went through them all, at least on the basic level, but they all deserve to come back. And that especially is something that when you go deeper will be useful. It's the PineCon conference. They had it about 2 weeks ago. They recorded all the lectures. That's 10 presentations. Maybe I should give that to you. There you are, as the channel. Keep in mind, I'm not affiliated with any one of them. They're big companies and big startups, but they're all useful. All right. So let me wish you a great weekend and a good year ahead. Share. A long night. That's right. A nice long weekend also. Very, very welcome. There's so much to learn, and we'll do some more learning next time. Thank you, Suresh, Pete, Brian, Lawrence, Olga, Jerome. Goodbye.